The evening sun dipped low over Santa Monica Pier, scattering streaks of orange and pink across the ocean as waves slapped gently against the pillars below. The air smelled of popcorn, salt, and fried dough, mixing with the sounds of laughter, music from buskers, and the occasional squeal from the roller coaster nearby. Families strolled with ice creams, couples leaned against the railing, and children tugged at their parents' hands, eager for the arcade. Amid all this joy, Lily wheeled herself forward slowly, savoring the breeze that brushed her face. At 17, she had learned to find peace in little things, the colors of the sunset, the freedom of moving on her own wheels, and the feel of the ocean spray. The pier was her escape, a place where she could almost forget the stares, the whispers, and the cruel reminders of her disability. Almost. She paused near a group of teenagers clustered by a food stand. They were tall, loud, and restless, the kind of kids who filled silence with cruelty just to feel powerful. Lily lowered her gaze and tried to roll past them quickly. But one of them, a boy with a baseball cap turned backward, stepped in front of her. His smirk was sharp. "Where you off to, Wheels?" he jeered, his voice carrying over the chatter of the pier. His friends laughed, nudging one another, feeding off the attention. Lily's stomach tightened. "Excuse me," she said softly, trying to steer around him. But before she could, another boy kicked the side of her wheelchair. "Move, cripple," he spat. The word landed like a blade. Gasps flickered through the crowd, but no one stepped forward. Tourists turned their heads, busying themselves with phones and cameras, pretending not to see. Her chair jolted, the impact rattling through her arms as she gripped the wheels. The laughter around her grew sharper, crueler. A girl with heavy eyeliner bent down, mocking her. "What's the matter? Can't fight back?" she sneered, and the group burst into another round of ugly cackles. Heat rushed to Lily's face. She wanted to disappear, to vanish into the ocean mist. She had endured whispers before, cruel kids at school, even strangers staring like she was less than human. But this, being kicked, cornered, and ridiculed in the middle of a crowd that did nothing, cut deeper than anything she had felt before. One boy leaned over her, close enough that she could smell his cheap cologne. "Bet you wish you could stand up, huh? Bet you wish you weren't so useless." He shoved her chair backward with his foot, laughing as she scrambled to control it. Her heart pounded. The wooden planks beneath her wheels rattled, the sound echoing in her ears like thunder. Her eyes darted around. People were watching, some whispering, but no one moved. She felt small, trapped, and utterly powerless against the storm of laughter. In that moment, as the waves crashed below and the sun began to sink, Lily realized something painful. Sometimes the world didn't just ignore cruelty, it allowed it to grow. And here she was, at the edge of her favorite place in the world, stripped of her joy by the very people who saw her as nothing more than a target. The boy's shove had sent Lily's wheelchair rolling dangerously close to the edge of the pier, where only a thin wooden railing separated her from the long drop into the crashing waves. Her fingers gripped the wheels desperately, her knuckles white as she stopped herself just inches away. Fear clawed through her chest, but the sound that followed changed everything. It started faintly, like a distant rumble of thunder. Then it grew louder, heavier, filling the air with a low growl that turned heads all across the pier. Tourists paused, frowning, trying to figure out what was coming. The bullies looked around, suddenly, uncertain, and then they saw them. A line of motorcycles rolled into the lot beside the pier, their chrome catching the last rays of the sunset. The roar of engines drowned out the laughter, powerful and commanding. One by one, the bikes parked, and their riders dismounted. They weren't just men, they were giants draped in leather vests, boots thudding against the wood as they walked. Their arms were inked with tattoos, their jackets heavy with patches from a biker club whose name shimmered in bold lettering across their backs. The leader, a tall man with a thick beard and a bandana tied around his forehead, scanned the pier with a look that could freeze fire. His eyes landed on Lily, still trembling in her chair, and then flicked toward the group of teenagers who had been circling her like vultures. The laughter died instantly. The air shifted. Even the seagulls seemed to hush. "You think picking on a girl in a chair makes you tough?" the leader said, his voice deep and steady. He didn't need to shout. The weight of his words carried farther than any scream could. The teenagers stiffened. One of them stuttered, We were just joking, man." "Joking," another biker growled, stepping forward. His arms were massive, his leather vest patched with skulls. "I don't see anyone laughing now." The group shuffled backward, their bravado crumbling as quickly as it had flared. The tallest of the bullies tried to puff out his chest, but even he couldn't hide the fear in his eyes. The bikers moved closer, surrounding Lily instinctively. Their boots landed heavy on the planks, a slow rhythm that sounded like a warning drumbeat. Tourists who had once stayed silent began pulling out phones, filming the unfolding scene. But no one dared interrupt. Lily stared up at the men, her heart racing, torn between awe and relief. She had never seen people move with such certainty, such power. For once, the bullies weren't the ones in control. The leader crouched down, his gaze softening as he met Lily's eyes. "They hurt you?" he asked gently. Lily shook her head, her voice caught in her throat. "No, just," she gestured helplessly, her eyes flicking to the boys. The biker stood up, towering over the group of teenagers again. His jaw clenched. "Then here's what's gonna happen," he said slowly, his tone like steel. "You're gonna leave, right now, and if I ever hear of you laying a hand, or even a word, on someone like her again, you'll be answering to us." The bullies, faces drained of color. The pier seemed to lean in, waiting for their choice. Would they run? Would they resist? The silence stretched, broken only by the distant crash of waves and the rumble of still idling motorcycles. The teenagers didn't hesitate long. The moment the leader's words sank in, they stumbled backward, muttering excuses that dissolved into the wind. One boy tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked with fear. Another tugged at the sleeve of his friend's hoodie, whispering, "Let's just go, man." Then, like shadows scattering, they bolted down the pier, shoving through the crowd that had gathered to watch. Their laughter, once sharp and cruel, was gone, replaced with the echo of boots and the deep growl of engines behind them. The leader let out a low grunt and shook his head. "Cowards," he muttered. His voice carried enough contempt to make the words sting, even though the boys were already long gone. The crowd that had done nothing minutes before now erupted into murmurs, whispers, and the glow of recording phones. But the bikers paid no attention to them. Their focus was on Lily. One of the bikers, a broad-shouldered man with long gray hair flowing from beneath his helmet, crouched beside her chair. His leather vest squeaked as he bent, his rough hands surprisingly gentle as he adjusted her wheel where it had been kicked. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked softly, his voice gruff but warm, like a father's. Lily swallowed hard, her throat tight. I think so," she whispered. Her hands still trembled on the rims of her chair, but the weight in her chest, the crushing humiliation, was starting to lift. The leader stepped forward, his presence commanding yet strangely comforting. He leaned down just enough so his eyes were level with hers. "They didn't break you," he said firmly. "Don't let them think they did." Something in his words lit a spark in Lily. For the first time all evening, she felt seen, not as a victim, not as the girl in the wheelchair, but as someone strong, someone worth protecting. Her eyes stung, but she held back the tears, nodding instead. The other bikers closed ranks around her, their leather vests forming a shield against the curious stares of the crowd. Engines revved in unison, the sound echoing off the wooden planks and out over the ocean, like a chorus of thunder meant to drown out every cruel word she had just endured. Tourists began to clap. It started small, hesitant, then grew louder as more people joined in. Some cheered, others whistled, and phones flashed as strangers captured the moment. The same crowd that had been silent during her humiliation now applauded her rescue. But Lily wasn't looking at them. She was looking at the circle of bikers who had shown up like angels on roaring machines. She took a shaky breath and smiled, small, but real. The leader gave a nod, then reached out, placing a heavy but gentle hand on her shoulder. "Don't you worry, kiddo," he said with a grin that softened his rough exterior. "You've got family here now. Anytime you need us, you just remember, you're not alone." The bikers mounted their motorcycles one by one, the engines roaring to life like a promise carved into the night. As they revved together, the pier trembled with their power. Lily felt it in her bones, not fear this time, but strength. And as the last of the sun disappeared into the Pacific, she realized something unforgettable. Sometimes angels don't come with wings. Sometimes, they ride Harleys, wrapped in leather and thunder, showing up exactly when you need them most.